There is a point in life when the world you have carefully built begins to tremble. It is not a loud, dramatic explosion, but a quiet, internal cracking. The story you told yourself about who you are, what you want, and where you are going starts to feel like a fiction you can no longer sustain. The career that once provided security now feels like a cage. The relationships that defined you now feel like a role you are forced to play. A strange sense of emptiness begins to creep in, even when, from the outside, everything looks perfect. This experience is often diagnosed as a crisis, a breakdown, a failure, but Carl Gustav Jung, one of the great explorers of the human soul, saw it differently. He understood that this was not an end, but a violent, necessary beginning. Think of an old forest, thick with dead undergrowth, where no new light can reach the ground. A fire comes, and it appears to be a total disaster. Everything turns to ash. It is an ending. But that fire is not just an end. It is a cleansing. The heat cracks open seeds that have been dormant for years, waiting, and the ash itself becomes the fertile ground for a new, stronger forest to grow. The destruction was the only way for new life to begin. For him, this was not a sign that your life was falling apart. It was a sign that your true self was trying to break through the surface. And as long as you are fighting to hold the old world together, you are resisting the very process that is meant to make you whole. This video is an invitation to look at the chaos differently, to understand why so many of us build lives that are too small for our own souls, and to discover what happens when we finally have the courage to let it all fall. Because what feels like the end is often the start of your real life. The moment it all falls apart is the moment it can finally begin to fall into place. Behind the feeling that your life is collapsing, there is a deep psychological truth. A structure that Jung spent his life mapping. To understand it, we must first look at the house we all learn to build, the house of our identity. From our first moments, we are learning how to be accepted. A child quickly understands that some parts of them earn a smile and other parts earn a frown. Kindness is rewarded. Curiosity is sometimes encouraged. But anger, sadness, fear, intense, messy emotions are often met with disapproval. Stop crying. Don't be so dramatic. There's nothing to be afraid of. The message is clear. To be loved, you must be good. So you learn to perform. You build a version of yourself that is acceptable to the world. A mask of agreeableness, of competence, of strength. This is the part of you that knows how to fit in, how to succeed, how to be liked. Jung gave this mask a name, the persona. Think of a bonsai tree. It is beautiful, carefully shaped, and admired by all. But it is not a free, wild tree. It has been cut, wired, and confined to a small pot to please the eye of the gardener. Its shape is not its own. It is the shape the gardener decided was good. The persona is our inner bonsai tree. We become the hard worker who can't rest, the funny one who can't be sad, the strong one who can never ask for help. We live on the surface, in the front rooms of our own house, and we are praised for it. But this house has a basement, and in that basement we lock away every part of ourselves that was not approved of, every emotion we were told was wrong, every dream we were told was foolish, every weakness we were told was shameful. This is what Jung called the shadow. The shadow is like the roots of that great tree. We admire the leaves and the branches swaying in the sun. But all the real strength, the true power that holds the tree steady in a storm, comes from the dark, messy, unseen roots in the ground. Without the roots, the tree would fall over in the first strong wind. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the unlived part of you, the forgotten part of your soul. And it is down there in the dark that your true power and energy are stored. You cannot destroy the shadow, you can only ignore it, but the more you ignore it, the louder it knocks. It shows up as anxiety, as depression, as a feeling of being a fraud, as an addiction that numbs the emptiness. The falling apart begins when the shadow has had enough of the basement. The unlived life inside you demands to be lived, and it will shake the very foundations of your carefully built house until the walls come down. The collapse of the persona feels like death, and in a psychological sense it is. It is like a caterpillar entering a chrysalis. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. But inside, the caterpillar is dissolving completely, turning into a liquid mess. It is falling apart into nothing. It must become nothing before it can become a butterfly. The collapse is your chrysalis. The person you thought you were, the character you played so convincingly, is dying. The world no longer responds to your mask in the same way. The old rules no longer work. This is a moment of profound disorientation, but it is here in the rubble of the old life that the real journey begins. This is the point where most people make a mistake. They try to rebuild the same house, just with stronger walls. They find a new job that is just like the old one. They jump into a new relationship that mirrors the last one. They try to put the mask back on, to pretend the earthquake never happened. This is a refusal of the call. It is an attempt to go back to sleep. The Jungian path is the opposite. It is the courage to stay in the chaos, to not run from the feeling of being lost. It is the moment you stop trying to fix the broken house and you turn around and you finally open the door to the basement. And this is what Jung meant when he said, "I would rather be whole than good." Being good was living in the front rooms of the house, showing only the acceptable parts. Being whole is the act of going down into the darkness and reclaiming what you left behind. It is a process of integration. You must sit with the parts of yourself you have rejected. It is like approaching a wild horse. You don't run at it shouting. You don't try to break its spirit. You approach slowly. You show it respect. You let it see that you are not a threat. You learn its nature, and in time it allows you to get close. Its wild power doesn't disappear. It joins with you. You listen to your anger, and you discover it holds your passion and your boundaries. You listen to your sadness, and you discover it holds your capacity for love and connection. You listen to your fear, and you discover it holds your intuition and your wisdom. This is not a pleasant process. It is confronting everything you have spent your life running from. It requires you to stop blaming the world for your problems and to take responsibility for your own inner darkness. It is the hardest work a human being can do. But with each piece of the shadow you bring into the light, you become more real, more solid, more whole. The energy that was trapped in the basement is released. It is no longer working against you from the unconscious. It is now available to you as a source of immense power and vitality. As you integrate your shadow, your center of gravity shifts. It moves from the outside world to the inside. You stop being guided by the question, what do they want from me? And you stop being guided by the question, what is true for me? This is the birth of internal authority, and it is like a ship that has been drifting on the ocean, pushed around by every wind and every current. For years it had no way to steer itself. Now, through this process, it has finally built its own rudder. The winds and currents are still there, but now the ship can choose its own direction. It can even sail against the wind if it needs to. You no longer need the world to validate your feelings. Your feelings are your own. You no longer need permission to change your mind, to say no, to choose a different path. You give yourself permission. When this happens, the world around you is forced to reorganize itself. Relationships based on your old mask, on your need for approval, will begin to crumble. This can be painful. It may feel like you are losing everything all over again. But your newfound wholeness acts as a filter. It is like panning for gold. You dip your pan into the river of your life and you shake it. All the dirt and gravel, the superficial connections, the relationships based on control are washed away. What remains, shining in the bottom of the pan, is the real gold, the connections based on genuine respect and truth. Falling into place means your outer world starts to become a reflection of your inner wholeness. You stop chasing jobs that look good, and you start creating work that feels meaningful. You stop seeking partners who complete you, and you start attracting partners who can meet you in your wholeness. You no longer react to life from a place of fear and insecurity. You respond to it from a place of centeredness and integrity. The constant draining effort of pretending is gone. In its place is the simple, powerful energy of just being. This is the heart of individuation, Jung's term for the lifelong process of becoming who you were always meant to be. Not a perfect person, but a complete person. A person who is no longer at war with themselves. When you are no longer hiding from yourself, you stop hiding from life. The world no longer seems like a dangerous place to be judged. It becomes a field of experience to be lived. You develop a new kind of trust, not a blind faith that everything will be good, but a deep knowing that you can handle whatever comes. You have faced the darkness inside you, so the darkness outside is no longer as terrifying. You find joy not just in success, but in the process. You find beauty not just in perfection, but in the flaws. You see that life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. The shaking ground you once feared becomes the very ground you dance on. The chaos you tried to control becomes the creative energy you learn to work with. You stop being a character in a story written by your family or your culture, and you become the author of your own. So if your world is shaking now, if the walls are coming down and you feel lost in the dark, remember this: you are not being destroyed, you are being unmade. You are being returned to the raw material of your own soul. This is not the end, it is the beginning of the journey home. Your life isn't falling apart, it is falling into place.